If your reels and short form videos can't seem to get views or they plateau and look something like this, it's almost always because of the way you structure them. And just a few small tweaks can be the difference between views fizzling out at 500, 1,000, or breaking out to 50,000, 1 million views. Just a couple of days ago, the head of Instagram himself admitted to actually this. He basically said the following.
For reels, what matters most is average watch time.
Now here's the problem. Most creators reveal their answer, basically the punchline or the payoff, way too early. And once you do that, the algorithm basically has no reason to push your content out further. Because if the audience feels like they already got the answer halfway through, their curiosity drops, and so does your attention and your views die. With that being said, fixing this doesn't actually mean rewriting your entire script. It usually comes down to small tweaks like moving one sentence later, changing one word, or holding back just a little bit longer. If you get this whole thing right though, it changes everything, because when you keep people watching all the way until the end, your videos don't just get 2,000 views. They start to break out at 20K, 50K, even a million. I've seen this with dozens of my clients. So let's take this whole thing step by step. How to structure your reels in the way that your retention climbs and the algorithm just can't ignore you anymore. So essentially every viral reel has just these 3 or 4 basically moving parts. The hook that includes something called a setup, basically something that opens a curiosity loop. Then we have throughout the script what I call secondary hooks that basically re-engage your viewers and basically keep them watching. But in order to do that, we actually need to package your video in the right way. Packaging basically means how you make your video and the format. And then all the way until the end, you have your basically what's called the payoff, essentially answering or closing that loop that you open up at the beginning at the hook. Now, most creators make the mistake of actually closing this loop way too early, and the audience feels like at this point that they already got what they stopped for, so your retention drops and your views just stop. So the fix to this is, by the way, pretty simple. We simply deliberately delay the payoff, right? Closing the loop until the very end, and we actually use secondary hooks to pull attention back anytime this whole thing dips. Essentially about the hook, you need to grab as much attention as possible and basically just keep them watching for more than 3 seconds. That's the only rule. And to do that, you basically need your hook to have some sort of setup that basically paints one question in your viewers' minds, not two, just one thing, okay? Don't overcomplicate that. But for today, just think about your recent videos and look at your hooks and see if you made people have this one question within the first 3 seconds. By the way, if you're not sure whether your hooks are actually strong enough to even get people past those first few seconds, I built a free hook analyzer AI that you can copy and paste your script in, and it'll score your hook instantly, so you'll basically know if it's strong enough to stop the scroll. First link in the description. Here's actually an example.
If you can't solve this SAT math question in under 5 seconds, go back to 3rd grade. No.
Okay, so here's the hook. If you can't solve this SAT math question in under 5 seconds, go back to 3rd grade. Okay, so within 3 seconds, actually, you're asking yourself, can I solve this, right? Can I really solve this? And that's all that you need to do. In 3 seconds, we got the question plan in our head, the setup, right? And we want to know what's going to happen. Can I actually solve that, right? Right after that, notice the cut to the iPad with the equation there. And with her basically saying, notice how they want you to find 5x plus 5y. That's the secondary hook. Let's take a look at this.
Notice how they want you to find 5x plus 5y. All you need to do.
It's basically a little reset that pulls you back in right before you swipe away, because you might be like, oh, this is too hard. I'm not really interested in solving this right now. But then she says, well, did you notice that they actually want you this, basically implying some sort of simple answer? So my brain is instantly re-engaged, and then poof, basically the payoff literally a second before the video ends, right? Just add these two numbers and you got the answer.
In 5x plus 5y, all you need to do is add, and the answer is 2,500.
Its only job is basically to re-engage the viewer in case they're about to mentally check out, right? Sometimes it's not even about convincing them to keep watching. It's about re-convincing them to not swipe away, because there's 1,000 other videos they could watch, right? The monkey's already waiting just to swipe away. Now, this SAT video was actually just a very short example that condenses these concepts down to the basics. So let's take a look at a little longer video that got 60,000 likes, millions of views, to make this even more clear. Okay, so
if you're weighing yourself just once per week, then you are fucked. And here's why. Every single time you...
Okay, so it basically opens with a very strong hook. If you're weighing yourself just once a week, then you are And here's why. That instantly grabs attention and plants the curiosity loop. Within the first 3-4 seconds, my question is, well, why? I want to know why I should weigh myself more than once a week. That is the question that I have. Now, what makes this whole video actually work is not the hook itself, but the secondary hooks that are layered throughout the video. And this is kind of a masterclass in itself, the way he does that. Again, if you're wondering whether your own hooks are actually strong enough to hold attention past those first 3 seconds, check out my free hook analyzer AI. Just paste in your script basically, and it'll score your hook instantly. So you know if it can actually stop the scroll and secondary hooks actually land. Because if it can't stop the scroll, secondary hooks don't matter because nobody's getting to them. So first link in the description, test it in your next reel. With that being said, the secondary hook actually starts here. He does what we call a pattern interrupt. He switches to another scene. You know, he cuts basically, and these quick edits basically reset your focus right before you drift. So that's only part of the first secondary hook. Second of all, the props, right? Take a look.
Every single time you step on the scales, this is what happens.
Here's the first secondary hook, and he's holding a prop. Prop usually hold attention really, really well, especially in the fitness world, but everywhere. It's just other niches don't really use it, and I don't know why. So the props keep the focus way more, but he does it even better.
Scales, this is what happens. You have your muscle and bones, which I assume you...
As you can see, he's using, you know, ground meat and some other thing for muscle and bones. And, you know, basically he does that throughout the script. He shows props, right? Third of all, because that's not all, he has more secondary hooks. It's the script itself, right? The language is a little bit funny, a bit rude, by the way. It just goes to show that this whole self-censoring thing is just stupid.
82 kilos. You fat shite.
So these spikes basically re-engage you again, layering everything on top of each other. Now, the final part of the formula that basically made this video go viral is the payoff, aka the thing you guys do early all the time or a lot of the time. So in this reel, right, the payoff, I'm gonna spare you the details. He basically talks about, well, there's fluids that you retain, and then you eat something, and then you lose some body fat, then you eat a little bit more carbs, and then basically here's the payoff at the end.
To the toilet. So as you can see, weighing yourself once per week is pretty fucking silly. You end up having a panic attack every time your weight goes up, even though it's usually caused by just a big poo. Instead of doing this, start weighing yourself every single day so you can work out your average weekly weight, which is a far more accurate way of measuring fat loss.
There you go. The actual payoff, right? Everything gets layered in, hook, rehook, and then the question, and then basically increases right until the very last sentence. Only in the very last sentence, he answers the very first question that people had in their heads, in their minds, which is, why should I weigh myself more than once a week? Right? Now, let me show you how a simple change in the script could lead to people leaving early and your views actually dying. And I see this so many times with creators who come to work with me. So in his version, he basically says at one point, when you step on the scales the following Friday, it reads 82 kilos, blah, blah, blah. This sends you into a spiral because you immediately assume that these 2 kilos are body fat. Okay? So as you see, it's kind of naturally progressing you towards an answer without giving it away. It has a bunch of micro hooks, secondary hooks, aka, you know, opening smaller loops again throughout this, just these 2 sentences. But here's where a lot of creators get really, really wrong. Imagine if you said it like this. When you step on the scales the following Friday, it reads 82 kilos. That's why you should actually weigh yourself every day to get the weekly average. Anyway, you probably assume those 2 kilos are body fat, but they're not. And you see the problem right here. The loop to her initial question is already closed right there. The audience got their answer that they're waiting for. They're basically satisfied. And the second that happens, they'll swipe away. Now, this is the actual difference between average content and content that actually goes viral. Because here's the crazy part, in case you didn't get it yet. This video has one single point that could have been said in a single sentence. Weigh yourself every single day because your weight fluctuates. That is it. That's one point. And instead of saying this or dropping the answer in a 15-second video, the creator stretched it out to almost the maximum, which is 1 minute 30. That's the art of retention. That's the art of actually going viral. Now, there's actually one more lever here that most creators don't even think about, and it's the packaging, aka the format. And by format, I mean how you deliver the video, right? Talking head, green screen. In this case, it's a mix between talking head and prop use, which is a big format because you basically can take the same idea if you think about it, almost even the exact same script outline, and by changing the packaging, aka the format, the video lands completely differently. And this is why the best creators aren't just intentional about what they say, but also how they package it. Let me know in the comments if you want a video about this whole thing. But here's the other problem you also might not be aware of, tying this whole thing together. Even with a solid structure like this, a lot of creators still stay stuck under 10,000 views, for example, because the algorithm simply doesn't recognize their content yet, doesn't have enough data. If that is you, this next video here is the one that you actually need. I'll show you the exact system to finally break out that low view dead zone and get the algorithm to start pushing you to the right audience.